Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about combust planets in astrology. Now, first of all, as far as the meaning of a combust planet in astrology, a combust planet in astrology can be when it, or I should say, is considered combust, is when it's at, I mean, everybody's going to use a different orb. I'm going to say an 8-degree orb on this. If a planet is within 8 degrees from the sun, of course, it would be in very close proximity. The thing about this is there is a variance, there's a disparity in the opinion on a combust planet. The traditional astrologers will say it's more detrimental than positive. Now, contemporary astrologers, at least many contemporary astrologers like myself, will say that it's actually can denote something more beneficial. It actually could shine the light on that planet that it's contacting, and it could actually illuminate that energy of that planet. I think a lot of the theory behind the fact that it really, where it makes that energy of the of that planet it's hitting negative, or it, because of the burning effect, the fact that the sun can be seen, because it's heat, it can burn, incinerating that they might burn that energy of the planet it's seeing. But a lot of the contemporary astrologers, including myself, will say, I mean, believe that it's really shining the light on the planet that it's contacting, and thus illuminating that energy. And anyway, the thing about it is, looking at this, is that the sun, I have the sun, it is in combust aspect with my Mercury. It's about 7, my Mercury is about 7 degrees from my natal sun. And I don't believe I have really any major communication deficiencies or defaults in communication. I do believe I'm very adept in communicating. I could be articulate. I don't. I think it actually, the sun, the fact that it's rather close to my natal Mercury, denotes and signifies an ability, a shining light on an ability to communicate. And the fact is, I have it in the zodiac sign Cancer, and I actually, um, it's interesting. It could really, for me, the way it might manifest, it might shine the light on an ability to extemporize in speech and be able to speak off the cuff and talk in an articulate manner about things connected with the past. I also have my Mercury in my chart. It also makes a trine to my natal Jupiter, and I was a sports writer for a local paper for about 5 years. Remember that Jupiter could be connected with sports. Jupiter is also the fortuitous, lucky, very benign planet. And the thing about it is, I do believe that the combust, the theory behind it, that it's very adverse and detrimental. They make it sound very foreboding, like, like it's really so negative to have your sun in conjunction, making it, well, in combust aspect to the planet, that the planet it's hitting is going to be affected in a negative or adverse manner. But the traditional astrologers also will contend, though, that the thing about the if you have an applying, if it's an applying aspect, then it's even more adverse, as opposed to separating. When you have a planet which is making the combust aspect to the sun. I don't believe that it is detrimental, really. I do believe that it is actually can be very positive. And keep in mind, too, you can have an aspect like Saturn conjunct your sun, and that could actually limit it might limit the energy of the sun, though, when it hits it. And it wouldn't be because I wouldn't agree that it would be because it's combust the sun, but because Saturn was conjunct the sun. In that example, Jupiter conjunct the sun could have the opposite effect. I think it could actually, because Jupiter can actually enlarge the characteristics of the sun, which is the basic character. In most cases, of course, you're going to have your ascendant or rising sign in a different sign than your sun sign. So the sun is like the true self, the basic character. Another example I would look at is some of you may have remembered renowned singer Whitney Houston, who died in 2012. She was found submerged in her bathtub. Apparently, it was ruled an accidental. I mean, I guess you could say like an accidental death. She had taken drugs before before she had died. And the thing about it is, in her example though, in her chart, she has the sun. The Venus would be considered combust. It's rather close to her natal sun. It's in Leo. But as many of you may know, she was a dominant singer. Venus can be connected with the arts. It could be connected with music, singing. She, and being in the sign that's dominant, Leo, and also the sun is connected with dominance. You have the sun conjunct Venus in Leo, and I believe it was in her 6th house of work and employment. And she was a fantastic, phenomenal singer, and I don't think her singing was adversely affected by the fact that she had the sun conjunct her Venus in her natal chart. So the thing about it is, it's just something where people have to understand. It's not, I don't believe it's gloom and doom when you have your sun making being in a combust aspect to your to the planet it's sending. It's not that planet, I don't believe, is affected detrimentally. We have to remember that. Now, as far as the traditionalist theory, I may have said this earlier in the video, I'm honestly not remembered, but when you have the separating aspect, they said it's actually better than the applying one. But I mean, looking at this as well, I mean, if a planet, see, people have to remember that, they could say, well, gee, I have my sun conjunct this planet, and for whatever reason, the energy, or if my sun is combusted, my planet is combust, because it's within like 8 degrees from the sun, and it doesn't come out strong. That means it must mean that the sun must be affecting it adversely, and that's not necessarily true, because in a lot of instances it would be another reason, and astrologically, why that could be happening. It could be that that planet in question is affected adversely by a lot of other planets. It could be very strongly afflicted, whether it's by aspects, it could be by house position, could be by sign. I mean, if it's in the 12th house of limitations, that could be playing a role as an example. So what it is, it's not so much where something, because you have to look at the whole chart to understand why something is happening. If somebody is flawed in the communication department and their sun is their Mercury is combust, say it's like within 8 degrees to the sun. I wouldn't think it'd be because that Mercury was combust. It would be because it could be, again, that it might be making a lot of adverse aspects. It might be, say, if it's in its detriment and fall in Pisces. It could be if it's in the 12th house. And also, just in general, energy of planets can be weakened when they fall, when they're not, I mean, if they're in angular houses, they could be emphasized more. But when the planet is in a generally in a cadet house, if it's in what I call the mutable houses, if it's in the 3rd, 6th, 9th, or 12th house, it may be weakened. And unless it's like Mercury in the 3rd, which would be in its accidental dignity. But you understand what I'm saying, the energy just may not be coming out strong and be expressed as much generally when planets are in the cadet houses, in contrast to, like, say, the angular houses have the most strength of the planets, as that's the theory anyway, and then the succeeding ones have medium strength as far as where the planets lie. So it's really, those are some things to look at as far as combust planets in astrology. And anyways, really not much more for me to say on this than what I had already expressed. And the thing about this too, and it's something that I wondered, and I don't really know if this applies or not. Hold on a moment, people. Is that this video knows about combust planets, but I honestly have not researched and known about as far as what's combust in terms of, I mean, I know planets can be combust, but can the ascendant be considered combust, or the midheaven, or other astrological points that are not, that are not planets? Could Chiron be considered combust? It's somebody with, say they have their natal Chiron retrograde. Would that give them more of a propensity or have some more greater capability of healing themselves? Say if it's in Scorpio, it might be psychological wounds or something dealing with a negative insurance or tax related matter, or dealing with people that were very were being manipulated, or people that were jealous of them, dealing with stalkers. Those are, those are some questions that I am not sure of. My understanding is that I believe they're really talking about planets when they talk about combust astrological points. But could we say that, like, say, if the sun, one thing I would say though, like, let's say for example that somebody has their sun is in, within 8 degrees of their ascendant, which is essentially, it's a conjunction. Now I use 10 degrees as far as conjunction aspects that involve whether it's personal planets, and then the ascendant midheaven, I do that as well. But if you have a planet, say it's within, say if you have the sun is within 8 degrees of the ascendant, that's obviously going to illuminate the energy of that ascendant more. I would say it would shine that light on it. It may not be considered combust, but remember, it could have the similar effect, I would say, as far as the sun being within 8 degrees of a planet. Say somebody has, they have their sun, and it's conjunct. Let's say it's within 8 degrees from their ascendant in the zodiac sign Aquarius. That could really illuminate a lot of that outer energy. That the ascendant is the outer demeanor, and the qualities more readily expressed. So it could really illuminate, shine the light on those outer Aquarius energies, which could be very, eccentric, idiosyncratic, innovative, being very unobtrusive, altruistic, selfless, and very and selfless energy that is expressed outwardly. So that is something that I, have wondered about. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.